20th, 1933, a cold winter's day in Berlin. On the surface, it might have seemed just like any other day in a city bustling with life, people going about their routines. But this was the day that changed the course of history forever. Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany, and with him, the seeds of tyranny were sown. Today, we'll journey back on that day, exploring the hopes, fears, and reflections that followed in its aftermath. For some Germans, that day brought a surge of hope. Hitler had promised to revive the economy, restore national pride, and undo humiliations of the Treaty of Versailles. The Nazis' promise resonated with millions who were struggling through the Great Depression and desperate for a way out of their misery. But for others, there was a deep sense of dread. Intellectuals, particularly leftist and German Jews, communities watched with growing fear. Many had read Hitler's Mein Kampf or witnessed his violent rhetoric. They knew the dangers that lay beneath his promises. Yet, even among them, some believed that Hitler could be contained, that the structures of democracy would keep him in check. This mix of hope and foreboding created a divided Germany. While crowds cheered in the street, others sat silently, wondering what this new chapter would bring. The events on the day unfolded quickly. Under immense political pressure, the President von Hindenburg reluctantly appointed Hitler as Chancellor. Many in Hindenburg's circle believed that they could use Hitler as a puppet, controlling him while leveraging his popularity. As news spread, Nazi supporters rallied in the streets, lighting torches and chanting slogans of victory. But in quieter corners of Berlin, there was an unease. Communists and Social Democrat parties, weakened and fragmented, warned of danger ahead. Their warnings fell on deaf ears. First-hand accounts. André Francos Poncet, the French ambassador to Germany, observed the Torchlight parade from the French embassy. He later wrote, quote, "The torches formed a river of fire over the very heart of the city. From these brown shirts, booted men, as they marched in perfect discipline and alignment, their well-pitched voices bawling warlike songs, there rose an enthusiasm and dynamism that was extraordinary." End quote. Milate Mashman, then a 15-year-old Nazi supporter, recalled her impression of the parade. Quote, "Some of the uncanny feelings of that night remain with me even today. The crushing treads of the booted feet, the somber pomp of the red and black flags, the flickering light from the torches on the faces, and the songs with melodies that were at once aggressive and sentimental." End quote. Bernd Engelmann, who had listened to the radio broadcast of the parade, was struck by the announcer's tone. Quote, "His voice was entirely different from the one I was familiar with. No longer calm and objective, but full of fanatic fervour. Many years later, when the Third Reich was a thing of the past, I dug around in the archives of the Cologne broadcasting station and found the very text read by the announcer the evening of the 30th of January. As I pursued it, I felt the same amazement and disgust that had filled me as a 12-year-old boy." End quote. And finally, Joseph Goebbels, who would later become the Minister of Propaganda, wrote in his diary, quote, "It is amazing, like a dream. The Wilhelm Speer will be ours." End quote. Now, let's take a little bit of a look further on. After the war, as the horrors of the Holocaust and the devastation of World War II came to light, the events of that day were scrutinized like never before. How could democracy fall so swiftly? How did one man's rise go unchecked? Historians point to the complicity of Germany's elites, the underestimation of Hitler's ambitions, and the public willingness to trade freedom for promises of stability. Survivors often reflect on the missed opportunities to resist, on the moments where action might have changed the course of history. It's a painful reminder of how fragile democracy can be, how important it is to recognize the warning signs of authoritarianism before it is too late. The story of 1933, on that 30th of January, isn't just a tale of the past, it's a warning to us today. When we see leaders attacking democratic institutions, vilifying entire groups of people, and consolidating unchecked power, we must remember the lessons of history. Defending democracy takes vigilance, courage, and action. As we reflect on that day in 1933, let's commit to ensuring that such tragedies don't happen again.